Hello everyone, my name is Daniel and I'm a programmer and an artist. And the other day I added some new build nodes to my geometry nodes collection, which are aimed at assisting you in constructing buildings and stuff like that. I wanted to do a video where I kind of demoed some of the tools. So I've gone ahead and prepared some pieces here ahead of time because I've already spent a couple hours making them and I didn't want to get the video bogged down in that. But I do want to show how you make pieces for some of the things. So I haven't made, this is a wall section. I haven't made many of those. This is just sort of a placeholder one. And then I do want to show how you make a window and stuff. So we're going to start by making a window, a square window to match the style of this window I've already made. So the first thing to note is this window has this sort of red wireframe bit in it. That's a mesh to be used by a Boolean operation to cut a hole in the wall. And then that node will then delete that out of the result before it renders the mesh. So the way I set that up is I just have a material. I called it cutter, and that material just has a where are we? Just has a wireframe plugged into the alpha of the material. And then obviously you have to turn on the blend mode to something other than opaque, and I just turn shadows off. So I've done a little planning for the building we're eventually going to make. The plan is for the first story to be 4 meters tall and the second story to be 3 meters tall. Having a human shaped figure that's to human scale is very helpful for some of this. I have this in my startup file, and I just copy them around so that you can kind of see how big something is and if it feels right. In my mind, that's a lot easier than just memorizing a bunch of numbers to some extent. This window here, I want to have a double square window that is 2 meters wide by a little less tall. I don't know what it's going to end up being exactly. I just copied the frame from this window and turned it into a mesh. And so we're going to, fortunately curves don't work very good on right angles. So we're just going to shear this on Y by 1 and then extrude it on the x-axis and flatten it. Then we can switch to vertex snap mode and line this up. And then we can just bridge these edge loops. We can't do that apparently, it didn't work. So I will just, let's do it this way. We will move this over here and remove merge by distance. We need a lower threshold, and then we'll just get rid of this edge loop. Let's put a seam in the corner and unwrap this again. And then we can duplicate that and rotate it 90 degrees and place it here. Merge by distance. Move this over. Merge by distance. Delete some edge loops. Unwrap it. So I think I want to put a little bit more of a sill on the bottom. I could just copy this one, I guess. We'll snap the cursor to the selected, selection to cursor, so then I know everything's lined up horizontally correctly. Also, when you're modeling, if you have your UVs, I like to model and make the UVs at the same time. I mean, I don't necessarily enjoy that the most, but it's a lot better than modeling a huge thing and then having to unwrap or try to texture all of it. It's worth spending extra time to make sure you have textures you like early, in my opinion. All right. So then I want to add some frames. So I'm just going to copy this object here and delete everything but this one frame. So I just realized these are not facing the correct direction. All right. So we'll tilt that 90 degrees. And then we will snap to the cursor. Tilt it 180 degrees. Now, I want to know where to place these, so I'm gonna just add a, let's see, I guess I can just duplicate this. It's actually about the right size, and then we'll just subdivide it 3 times, and then roughly line up the frames with those vertices. And then we will do the same here. See, let's subdivide that, and then subdivide it twice. Then we'll make a copy of this, rotate it 90 degrees, make sure the tilt didn't get messed up, which it looks like we're fine. We should probably, so we don't get Z fighting, just adjust this the tiniest bit in one direction, or you could like offset it by half, just so we don't get weird artifacts. So I'm just going to snap this to the top and the bottom. Just approximately correct. And then we can get rid of this. We do need to... So I'm just noticing that this frame is quite a bit smaller, so I'm just going to scale these on the x-axis to the 3D cursor until it by eyeball looks correct, and then we'll do the same over here for these two. If we wanted to, I should probably add like a frame around this. I guess we can do that. Maybe in a different material. So I'm actually going to make a plane. Flip to normal. We're just gonna line it up so that it fills the space. And then we can make a copy of it. And they should be the same size. What I'm going to do is I'm going to inset them some amount, and then we can just extrude back on a little bit. And then we can inset them again, just add a little bit of a detail, and then extrude all the way through. And we can we'll extrude it further, and then we can move these frames back a little bit. Let's get rid of this for now. I feel like these are too thick, so let's shrink them a tad, and then pull them back. Alright, then from here, what we can do is we can just delete these faces, and then copy this frame from the front we made to the back. So the way we'll do that is we can just select this edge loop, snap the cursor to it, select everything, pivot around the 3D cursor, make a copy, scale it on a Y in -1, fix the normals, select everything again, remove the doubles, or merge by distance, select this center loop because we don't really need it, delete edge loops, and then we can select one of these outside loops, use Control number pad plus to grow the selection till we have the back half selected. And then we can adjust it to be whatever size we desire. Now we need to fix the UVs, so we can just add some seams in the corners. And unwrap it. Double check all the textures look fine. Shade it smooth. Alright, now I just need to do the inside of the window, so I'm going to copy this wooden sill over here, snap the cursor to the selection of the cursor, and then we will edit this. So I'm going to line this up. I think keeping it the same is fine. That kind of gives it some consistency. We can get rid of this, we can get rid of that. Alright, so we will just line this all up. You can see we have a little bit of a gap here at the bottom. So I think I will just move this up to fill that. And then here, I want this whole wooden piece to move out or back. Now, one thing I do like to do, I think I mentioned it a second ago, was I like to put a perturb on everything just to give it some extra character. So it's not quite perfectly straight. So to make that work better, I like to put in sort of random loop cuts in different places. Now you do have to be careful with that because it could happen that the perturb would create a gap right here where it would pull this vertex away from this face. So keep an eye out for that, but I do like to sort of break up the evenness of things that way. Alright, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm not so happy with this. I feel like this needs the same ID so that it moves the same way. So you can see here sort of that problem I was talking about. There's a little gap right here, so you can fix that. We'll just hide this. Make sure correct face attributes is on. Select this edge and just pull it over a little bit more. Select this edge and pull it over a little bit more. So I'm pretty happy with that window. I want to keep it so it's nice and easy to edit, so the way I'll do that is I will use a collection to object node. So we'll just make a copy of this one, move it up here, and then we need to put all of these objects we made into a group. So we'll just hide those because we don't want them in. Select all of this, press Ctrl-G to make a collection, and then we need to give it a name, so we'll call this one window square. So then on this object here, we'll select the window square as our target collection. Make sure everything lines up correctly. One thing to note is if we look at the local on this, because I copied everything. Oh, so this one's wrong. So I copied everything except this box I added. So you can see in their object orientation, the z-axis points forward, and that's important because if you use instance on faces, the normal of the face will be matched to the z-axis. So you either need to model everything facing upward, like it's lying on the ground, or since I didn't do that here, the easiest way to fix it is to switch your transform option to affect only the origins, and then just rotate -90 degrees, which is essentially the same as rotating your vertices in your mesh 90 degrees. So now everything lines up. We can merge it into an object. We're going to realize the instances so that it becomes a mesh. Then we can use that merged object as the target of the instance on faces. So we do need to name this object, so this should be window square. And I don't think I named this door, so we'll call it door arched window square. I think it's always a good idea to add numbers to the end of your names, even if you don't really anticipate making more, because then if you do make more, it's easier to keep track of them. So now we can go ahead and set up our instance on faces nodes. So let's add a new plane over here. We can rotate it 90 degrees on the x-axis, and bring in instance on faces, drop it on there. Now we need a collection for that. I think I already set one up. It's called doors and windows, so we can just add these to that collection. You can also, you could press M and like move these to a collection that way. I kind of prefer having the old sort of groups style of collection that aren't visible, like linked to the scene, because if you make a copy of an object, it doesn't get added to the collection. And that way, in this case where we're trying to instance on planes and the index of a mesh in the collection matters, knowing that you intentionally changed it is important. So if you would copy an object that's in the collection, that's in a collection that's linked to the scene, then it would also be added to that collection, which would mean you would add a new object to the collection that you're scattering on your faces, which could mean that all the indexes changed. And then all of a sudden you have windows where you wanted doors or something. So then in our instance on faces, we'll select our doors and windows collection. We want uniform scale. So we want 2 for the y-axis. And then the rest of this should be fine, but we don't want random IDs. And then what we can do is we can run my fancy operator for placeholder materials, create materials for instances. We want to do doors and windows. And now we should have 3 materials on this because we have 3 doors and windows here. So then if we turn this on, we should get the doors first. If we make a copy and do the window, arched, window square. So that's all working. Something isn't lined up. I guess we should do calculate centers. That should fix that. All right. Now to make these the correct size, let's snap this to the grid. This one's not quite an even size. So now we have set up and ready our windows to scatter. Now this we should move to a collection, and in this case I do like to have it in a collection that's linked in the scene, and we'll call this collection cutters. And then we can reference that on anything that needs to cut holes. And then let's go ahead and name this doors and windows. Instance doors and windows. All right, the other thing we'll need are some walls. So I have a sort of one placeholder one set up here that's just blank. And I guess this is sort of a wall. So I wanted to show with this one that you can put extra details in. You just have to make sure that your faces on the build walls thing are the same or similar size. If we go to build walls here, if we select this object as our target, you can see that works. If you resize it, it gets kind of weird. But as long as you always go 4 meters, because that's the dimensions of this, you can sort of do a raise with the build walls tool. Anyway, that's kind of an aside. So I do want to make some wall pieces to show how that works, and sort of a trick I have. So I recommend making all your wall pieces sort of the same size. They'll be stretched eventually, so what size you choose doesn't really matter. But since my walls are going to be approximately 4 meters tall, I'll make my pieces 4 meters tall as well. So for this, I'm not sure what's going to look good. I do want to make sort of an interior wall. So let's see, let's just make a copy of this, and we'll call it lighter. Maybe let's make it kind of a yellow color. I don't know. So then we could add a detail to this. We could add another material. I don't know. I need some more materials here. So we could do something like this. And then we could add a detail at the top. this part here looks pretty good. Let's turn off correct face attributes. And we want to make sure we don't go above the height of our wall, so I will snap this to the top. And then we can extrude out a top part. Put in a cut here. And add some sort of crown molding detail. Now, unfortunately, with the build walls thing, there isn't really a great way to do build walls tool. There's not a good way to do repeating patterns, but you can add those later if you really want them. I don't know, maybe that looks okay. We could separate this, give it some dimension, maybe put something in here. I don't know, something like that. So now we have, we'll call this one interior wall, and let's correct face attributes, pull this down. So we'll name this wall interior 1. We'll make a copy of it. And let's call this one wall exterior 1. And for this one, instead of the wood trim, maybe let's put some bricks on there. That looks okay. And kind of like that. And then, I don't know, we could change this up a bit since these don't make so much sense here. All right, I feel like this is too tall. See, this is why I'm bad at this. I spend too much time fiddling with all of the details and not enough time explaining what I'm doing. I don't know, it doesn't matter. There's some sort of wall. The point I wanted to make was, anyway, that's all besides the point. What I wanted to show was however you get your finished walls looking, you're probably going to have like interior and exterior walls. And depending on what sort of walls you're building, you're going to want different objects that have either 2 interior walls on either side or an exterior on one side and an interior on the other side. And you might have different styles of walls for different rooms or stuff. So you can just make all those variations manually, which is fine. But you can make a node group to do it pretty easily as well. So we'll just call it like wall pair or something. And all you need to do is have 2 object info nodes, 1 for each wall, and connect those to the input. And then you can pick your side A and your side B. And then all you have to do is, if you know the dimensions of your wall, you can just do a transform on the second one. We're going to rotate around Z 180 degrees. And then we need to translate it on X by 2 so that it is in the same space. And then you can just join those together into a wall pair, like so. And you can call these side A, side B. So that's a useful node for assembling all your walls, because then we can just make a copy of it. We can choose interior for both. And now, if we decide we want to add like a detail to this, maybe we want like a chair rail or something, or some sort of a rail somewhere at the top of the wall. We can do that, and it updates in all of the walls at once, which is nice. All right, so now we've done all of that, let's try to actually make something. Of course, having some kind of a plan for what you want to make is important. I've released. What is this? It must have come in with one of my node groups. So all I've really thought about is I want to play with an arch theme, as you maybe can tell. And I want to keep it fairly simple so it doesn't take forever because I'm recording this. But I do want it to look interesting, so I want to do more than just a single room. So the first thing I want to do is just make a shape of some sort. This needs to adjust the UV map, adjust UVs, merge, miter. Cut collection is cutters, cut holes, cut attribute is bool. Oh yeah, I don't think I ever did that. So the other thing is, for this mesh to cut a hole, we need to add a vertex group to it called bool, and then assign those vertices to it. And that way, when you're going through the, when the node's going through trying to cut holes, it can identify what part of this merged window mesh is the cutting object, or the cutting cube, and what part is the visual mesh that we want to see. Make a box. We need to make this more interesting. Let's add another, maybe we'll make it L-shaped. Always good to try to keep in mind how big it is. I don't want to make it too big. Let's see, this is 8 meters. Let's add a ground. Let's snap the cursor to this and add a ground plane. The other thing, I don't want to make it too flat. One thing we can do that could be kind of interesting is if there is like a tunnel going under. I'm thinking this will be 2 stories tall. I like to have my stories be separate objects for no particular reason other than it just keeps things organized. Well, and you can hide it if you want to go inside later. So then this could be one. What's happening? Delete faces. This could be like one connected bit here. It's also, if you can add some elevation differences to your the surrounding area, that can add a lot. It's easy to make things flat, and flat isn't always the most interesting. Now I can't see my grid to know how big stuff is. That's 5. Let's make this, what if we made this 3 and moved everything in? Let's get rid of these, we don't need these. Alright, we could put some, so maybe the way we can tie the elevation in is we could add like a basement. What if we had like something like this? And then if we pivot around this, Merge at last. Merge by distance. So maybe we can put like some kind of a retaining wall in there. Could be kind of interesting. And then like this part is lower. I think the easiest way to do this is going to be to line this up like this and then do a bevel. Almost lines up. So then we can make some sort of a retaining wall or something looking. Snap this to the grid. Snap this to the grid. And this could come down. Let's hide this. Turn on proportional editing. Now you can change the heights of the wall, but your results may vary. So that could be kind of interesting. So then we need to add a basement area. Yeah. Let's keep it pretty small. Not what I wanted, edge loops. So that'll be the basement. Then we should cut a hole here. Oh, we'll have to fix that later so that it's looks fine. All right, let's add some floors. For floors, I don't have anything special. I just brought this material in. So we will just stretch it out. Let's get some other details in here. Instead of default, what if we did our interior, exterior? All interior, exterior, all interior, interior. So now you can see all of everything flipped. Flip the normals. All right, let's make this that as well. Also needs to flip the normals. So now I don't really like this at the bottom, so we'll probably need to make another wall that's different. Let's copy that up 4. Let's add a solidify. Set the offset to 0 and the thickness to like 0.0 to 0.1 maybe. That way we just don't see the tops of the walls fighting with the floor and stuff. And we don't really need the rim because it's never going to be seen. Now that only works if you, so my game's top down, so you're never really going to see ceilings, which is nice because I don't have to make them. But if you were going to be inside the building, then you would probably want your ceilings to be different. All right, I have some column things here. see what we can do with these. Maybe we put doors here. So I like that. I don't like this. Let's just get rid of it. Snap to vertex. Delete. All right, then we can come over here and get our doors and windows, and we can make a copy of this door and bring it over, and it's already in the cutting collection, so we should just be able to place it here. Like so. Okay, and unfortunately this happens sometimes. Blender and Booleans can be finicky. For now, what I found that works pretty good is usually just adding an extra loop cut to like divide your wall up. It seems to mostly have trouble if there's not enough geometry. So adding an extra loop will kind of fix the hole cutting. And I don't really like this. I guess that looks okay. Actually, here's an idea. What if we... So we're going to make a copy of this. We're going to make it be the interior wall. And we're going to bring this face back. Have 3 doors here. Our whole wall got deleted. Okay. And then what if can we just copy this and move it to the cutters collection? Scale it up. I just have to get rid of these interior faces. And then we're going to need some extra cuts in this wall. Why is it having so much trouble? This is the first time I've tried doing curved doors and windows, so maybe it's a problem because of that. Alright, I turned on hole tolerant on the Boolean node, and that improved things quite a bit. So now, can I get rid of these edge loops? No. Weird. Alright, I will leave them in. So I feel like that's kind of interesting looking. So then if you're coming in, there's like this small area. Now it feels like you should be able to go out the sides though with that. Maybe, oh, maybe that should go here. What if we move this all? So sometimes I like to hide everything that I want to move, because it's easier than trying to select it. Then you can just unhide it and it's all selected. And then if we rotate this 90 degrees, it moved a mile. Alright, I've repositioned the archways, and I feel like I'm pretty happy with that. Alright, we need a different wall for this upper part. I definitely want some kind of a doorway over here, so let's copy. I crashed it. It crashed. Well, Blender just crashed, and I lost some of the work. And it didn't have an autosave. The last autosave was from hours ago. Like before I even started recording. I don't know why that happened. Alright. I kind of feel like I've already been recording for over an hour. I'm thinking maybe I should at least stop and edit this and see how long it ends up being, and maybe I will just do a part 2. So if that ends up being the case, this was part 1. We've made some parts, which does take some time, but it's worth getting them right in the first place, I think. We looked at walls. I don't know if I mentioned, with the walls, you want the origin point at the corner. That's important. Otherwise, they won't. If you have, let's see, if you have this wall here and the origin's not in the corner, then everything gets weird. So yeah, hopefully it's been interesting so far, and maybe there are a few techniques or tidbits that you've were able to pick up on. I will continue designing the structure in the next video, but I guess that'll be it for now, so thanks for watching.